We don't know everything that Elon Musk has done with his high technology ass. We don't know what he's been accused of by some as it may relate to the election. But we're not going to give up.
Wait a minute. Maxine, how do you know that Elon Musk's ass is high technology? That's a little strange, isn't it? I think I'm a little disturbed by that. That was Maxine Waters, certainly casting a strange aspersion on Elon Musk and his high technology ass was the word she used. My goodness. What is wrong with this lady? Well, we don't have time for that. It is the Chris Plante Show. Third hour of the Chris Plante Show today. It's Mike Opelka. That's me sitting in for my friend. He's under the weather. I've been checking in with Chris over the last 24 hours, and trust me, he is a stalwart soul who doesn't give up on his daily broadcast very easily. So he must be hurting for certain, and we hope and pray you will get well soon, my friend. We have much to get to, much to cover in this third hour. There's a lot of news. I mentioned it earlier in the show. If you were here, you know. The left side of the mainstream media is now running around with its hair on fire, screaming, there's more jobs being eliminated in the month of February than there have been for 15 years. They have cut more jobs in the month of February than in the last 15. Well, let's look at that. Let's break that down. Where is that happening? The greatest chunk of that is in government. Gee, what a surprise that the administration that came in just about 6 weeks ago and promised to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse to cut down on the wasteful government in the country is actually eliminating the wasteful government in the country. I'm old enough to remember when Joe Biden shut down the Keystone XL pipeline and thousands and thousands of people lost their job at the stroke of a pen, and both Biden and his press secretary, Jen Snarky, told people they should learn to code. Well, maybe all those government workers should learn to code. Or maybe they could get work on a pipeline, because this administration, which is committed to lowering the cost of energy, which will lower the cost of everything, this administration wants the Keystone XL pipeline project back in place, and also an 800-mile LNG pipeline from Alaska to America is currently being talked about. And those will be very good, high-paying jobs. So for any of those people that the left is crying about, screaming about, we've lost so many jobs, this is terrible. There are 10 million jobs available in this country. Now, those aren't 10 million jobs that will match up to the cushy government jobs that some of these people may have had. And those are jobs you might actually have to show up at the office to do, unlike some of these jobs that people have been sitting at home. We now know that there are so many empty buildings in Washington, D.C., the administration is actually investigating the sale of buildings that were headquarters for government operations. Prices are starting to come down. Home prices are starting to come down in the D.C. area, too, the Maryland, Virginia area around Washington, D.C. Isn't that amazing? Donald Trump is making home ownership cheaper in America. I know the interest rates have come down. I think they said 5 weeks in a row. But I also believe that the crude oil prices have come down. I was looking at that yesterday. Let me make sure I'm not giving you fake news. There was a report that said that the West Texas crude, the gold standard when it comes to crude oil, the oil prices are falling. Brent crude, not West Texas. The Brent crude crashes to prices not seen since 2021. And gee, what was happening in 2021 that oil prices were dropping? It wasn't because we were drilling. It was because of the pandemic. Oil prices have extended their losses, as reported by the Business People, to the lowest in almost 6 months. 6 months. Now, that's a good thing. The inventories are rising now for the 5th week in a row. 5 out of the last 6. When oil inventories are high, prices tend to drop. Isn't that amazing? It's capitalism. That's what it's called. Now, is it to the point where we need to restock our backup, our strategic petroleum reserve? No, not yet, but it will be. Trust me, it will be. This president, whose mantra of drill, baby, drill, is being repeated by many people throughout the administration and many people in the industry, and it just proves Donald Trump is keeping promises every single day, keeping the promises he made. And this will be one of the things that makes a huge difference. The jobs report yesterday was not good. There were fewer jobs created than were anticipated, a significant number. But you have to consider whether or not this is a correction or is it a trend. 1 month does not a trend make. We will see. We'll see. I keep an eye on this. You know, I just wonder why all the hand-wringing and lighting your hair on fire, unless you're a dishonest broker, because you're not telling the whole story. When I look at the mainstream media, and they literally are leading with the story, oh, there's more jobs that were cut in the month of February, more layoffs in the month of February than in 15 years of Februaries. 10 million jobs open. And not a peep, not a single one of you has said that. You want to be a part of the conversation, you're welcome to 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. I am interested in the progress we're making in terms of stopping wasteful spending. And Elon Musk is trying to get that point across. And Elon Musk spoke with members of the Republican Party in the Senate for 2 hours yesterday afternoon and then had a meeting last night. We've yet to get like a full report out of those meetings to say what the heck was going on. I hope we do. And at some point, I hope we get a congressional hearing where Musk can testify and actually point to things so we can say, we're going to stop this. And I mentioned it earlier. There's something called rescission. We've talked about reconciliation between the House and the Senate bill, but there is a way that the money can be clawed back. The money that has been spent, the ridiculous amounts of money that has been spent on stupid stuff, doing some kind of African-American sensitivity training in Burma. Seriously, how many millions of dollars? And we talked about the transgender mice. It's nuts. We did have some fun happen earlier in the House of Representatives when Al Green, he's the guy with the cane who's shaking his cane. Hang on a second, Mr. Speaker. The angry Al Green shaking his cane at the president was censured by the House of Representatives. And I think several members of the Democrat Party voted for Representative Green. Now, it's not going to change his life. Nothing's going to happen to this guy. He will fundraise off of this. But it did give the Democrats a chance to gather in the middle of the House and sing.
It's adoption of House Resolution 189. The House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
So he gathers with his cohorts in the well of the House of Representatives, and they start singing, "We Shall Overcome." We shall overcome someday. What a waste of time. You know, I really think that, and I mean this for both sides, if you're going to censure somebody, it should mean something. You should maybe have a giant chalkboard like we had in Catholic grammar school. And if you got out of line, you weren't censured. You had to go up and stick your nose in the circle on the chalkboard for 20 minutes. You know, put some real punishment on there. But no, this isn't going to mean a thing to him. Not one thing. Not one thing is going to happen to Al Green. He will be considered a hero. He's the guy who put out the resolution against Donald Trump for dastardly deeds done. And it wasn't that long ago. So this was anticipated. I'm sure this was on the schedule. What's going to happen? Well, the first thing we're going to do, Al Green's going to get thrown out. We're going to throw him out. Dastardly deeds done. He's going to be able to do that. Yeah. It didn't mean a single thing. Did not mean a single thing to Al Green, except he will absolutely fundraise on it. When did he do the death? It was about a month ago. A month ago. Stood up in the House of Representatives and proposed articles of impeachment.
I rise to announce that the movement to impeach the president has begun. I rise to announce that I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done.
Yeah, the dastardly deeds done clause of the Constitution. He has his cane with him there. Again, he's waving the cane in the air. I guess this is what's known as raising Cain. It's a gigantic waste of time. Gigantic waste of time. Let's check in on a couple of phone calls. Steve is in Northwest Indiana, I assume listening on the great WLS. Hello, Steve. Welcome to the Chris Plante Show.
Yes, sir. He left out a part of that. It's done dirt cheap.
That's right. That's the AC/DC remix
Right.
of Al Green. Dastardly deeds done dirt cheap. Well done.
So anyways, lately the local paper ran a story on the front page about a local woman that had gotten laid off from the National Park Service, and it's like a horrible thing. And later on in the story, it says, yeah, she hired in November. It ain't like she's got 30 years in or something. She just hired in November. And I've noticed a lot of these people that are being laid off now, they're all just recent hires. And I'll bet you a lot of them got hired in November, you know what I mean? So that the Biden administration was just packing them in.
Steve, you're exactly right. And now what we're discovering, there was some $387 billion in your money and my money, $387 billion that was allocated to alleged nonprofits that were started within the last 4 months. And if that doesn't smack of some kind of abuse of power and waste of money, I don't know what does. Anyone who works for the government, when you come in, you're a provisional employee. You're a kind of a trial employee. And that woman who was hired, especially if they're hired after the election, come on, man, to quote Joe Biden, I'm sorry, we're not sympathetic. And I would repeat the mantra that the Commerce Secretary said. There are 10 million jobs that are available. And according to Mike Rowe, the dirty jobs guy, about 1 million of those jobs pay over 6 figures. And they almost never lose their jobs because they're plumbers, electricians, welders, diesel mechanics. It's dirty jobs, not dirty deeds. And they pay quite well. All right, I'm taking a break. We'll get back to more of the madness from today. I have a crazy clip I have to play for you. And, of course, it involves Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana. It's Opelka in for Plant. on The Chris Plante Show.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris.
It is the Chris Plante Show. Mike Opelka, that's me sitting in for my ailing buddy Chris Plante. Hopefully he'll be back on the mend tomorrow. And I'm trying to get to everything. I just have so much going on. I will get to the Senator Kennedy clip, but I wanted to talk with one of you who had just called in, 888-630-9625, Dan in Reston, Virginia. Dan, my mind always flashes to the Reston Monkey House. I'm just hoping it's still secure and safe and all that stuff. But I want to talk about what you want to talk about, Dan. Welcome.
Well, I think the monkeys are safe and secure, and you always make me laugh. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Opelka. I appreciate it. And, hey, Amy Coney Barrett, right? She's not a stupid person, and she knows the precedent she's setting. And it's like the Democrats are going to sue on everything. And when she takes the sides of those nutcase liberal judges, she sets a precedent, and she reinforces with them that they're going to sue about anything and everything. And so, I mean, there's one thing about the law, which I appreciate, that the Republicans take the high road. But at the same time, the Republicans always break ranks. The Democrats never break ranks. So if we're going to get stuff done, then we can't break ranks. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, the court is one of those things that, there's not supposed to be a side. The law is supposed to be the law, which is kind of the weird thing. We know that a conservative president appoints conservative justices. You hope they stay that way. I read something of real interest. You may appreciate this, Dan, that Amy Coney Barrett's life was turned upside down and inside out after the abortion ruling, after Roe v. Wade was overturned. And to the point where, she's a big family person, that she felt and has felt on regular occasion very unsafe, very threatened by the crazy, violent Democrats who were absolutely blaming any conservative justice for taking away the right to murder babies. And so there is speculation that some of her thinking has been altered by her concern for her own personal safety, which is terrible. But had the Democrats stood up for the Supreme Court, things might be a little bit different. I think that's worth looking into. I'm just wondering if we're going to see any Supreme Court retirements in the next year or two. Wouldn't that be interesting? Stay tuned. I have to take a break. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plante on The Chris Plante Show. It is the Chris Plante Show on this Thursday, March 6th. Mike Opelka, that's me sitting in for my buddy Chris Plante. If you want to see the stories that catch my attention, you can visit pureopelka.com. I post them there usually every Monday through Friday. Just stuff I'm working on. Breaking news, President Donald Trump just posted on Truth Social after speaking with Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico. I have agreed that Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on anything that falls under the USMCA agreement. This agreement is until April 2nd. I did this as an accommodation out of respect for President Sheinbaum. Our relationship has been a good one, and we are working hard together on the border, both in terms of stopping illegal aliens from entering the United States and likewise stopping fentanyl. Thank you, President Sheinbaum, for your hard work and cooperation. Like seconds ago, that came up. Seconds ago. Anyone else want to argue that the tariffs are just a terrible idea? It's a terrible, terrible idea. they're working. And it's glorious to watch it happen. It really is. Keep an eye on what Doge is doing. And I do this all the time. I try and keep an eye on what Doge is doing because we're hearing more and more about Elon's meeting last night with the members of the House, earlier in the afternoon, 2-hour meeting with the senators. I would like to see a big open hearing where we get a full report on what the heck is going on. But what does the country think? What do the American people think? Well, CNN's been asking people. So let's pop into the old numbers guy at CNN, Harry Enton.
Bringing about. How are they feeling about
Yeah, this to me was one of the more shocking figures that I saw. Made me go, wait a minute, hold on one second. Whoa! Americans on Trump and Joe's efforts. Musk and Doge should influence government spending and operations. Look at this. 54%. The majority say that he and they should. How about approve of Trump trying to cut staff at government agencies? Again, you get a majority here.
So a higher percentage approve of Musk and Doge influencing government spending operations than voted for President Trump. That means some Democrats must be in there approving it. A higher percentage approve of President Trump trying to cut staff at government agencies. This is on CNN. They have to admit it. They have to tell the truth. The numbers cannot be messed with. This is the reality. That's good stuff. It's good stuff. I love it when we see people waking up. It's important stuff. Let me grab a couple of calls. I will get to that Senator John Kennedy clip, but so many of you are reaching out today. 888-630-9625. Don in Chicago listening on WLS. Hello, Don.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for filling in. I appreciate it. I like when you fill in.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
I think just in general as a country, we need to be careful about making statements like cushy government jobs and lazy public workers and stuff. And I know there's a lot of ways. I'm from Chicago. When you see 5 guys working on a garbage truck, you know there's way too many government jobs. And you're from here.
Yes, sir.
Well, my son's in the air traffic control field for the FAA. He's a radar technician, and after serving 10 years in the Marine Corps, his last billet was radar technician. It took him 15 months to recertify to work for the FAA. And wow. Air traffic controllers, it's yeah, I know, it's unbelievable. It takes air traffic controllers, no matter where they come from, over 2 years to certify. And I know they're understaffed. You know, I always joke with him when we fly down to go see our grandkids. I always text them before we get on the plane in Chicago. I say, "Are all your systems working fine?" And he'll say, "Everything's fine." But, you know, he works hard. You know, I'm not making any excuses for him, but he's complaining a lot because they just froze all their spending yesterday. No more spending. Nothing. Zero. So, you know, the last time I talked to him, he said he's down in Texas, they had to send a truck to Dallas to pick up parts from their airport so that they could use them down in Austin. And, you know, he goes, we've been dealing with this for a long time. He goes, but now it's really bad. So we got to be selective on how we look at this because there are people that can't do nobody can just walk in and be an air traffic controller or a radar tech or, you know, certain technicians at flying, you know, airports and stuff. So we need to be careful on how we blanket statement all government workers. That's all I'm saying.
Don, very fair point. And 3 things. Number one, thank you for raising a kid strong enough and loyal enough to be a Marine for, what did you say, 15 years? Or 10 years, whatever it was. Thank you. Number 2, one of the things that I think we need to impress upon Elon Musk and Doge is that there are areas where we have to be surgical with the cuts, and there are areas we can go in with the meat axe and the chainsaw, if you will. And one of those areas I want to make sure we don't jump in and just start cutting is obviously air traffic control. And from everything I've read, air traffic control and the changes were made not on controller levels. But we also heard, and I think it was Elon Musk who actually came out and said it, the systems look like Atari video games from the 80s. And why are we using old technology? Why aren't we using the best technology we can for our air traffic controller systems? That's just one of those things. But fair point. There are some cushy government jobs, but there also are some very important and vital jobs. Very important and vital. Let's talk to Bill in Manassas, Virginia. Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning, Michael. Nice to hear on the radio, Chris. You're doing a great job as usual.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was hearing Lynn Carr listen to you on the radio mention about the 10 million jobs, which is a great amount of jobs. I wanted to give you some information on a good job that young people may want to do. I was in the public utility company business for a long time, electrical company that takes care of all the electrical outside, you know, the electricity,
sure,
and feed houses and power plants. And excuse me, it's a great job. Now you're going to have to get out there and work. You got to pull your own weight, but you have a retirement program. I'm retired. You go through the apprenticeship program. It takes about 5 years. Once you get through that job, apprenticeship job, you become a journeyman lineman, and you get out and you make great money. Matter of fact, I was talking to a gentleman today. The going rate now for a journeyman lineman is $62 an hour.
Wow!
So I figured that up real quick. That's $500 a day. Comes out to about $128,000 a year. Without overtime, of course, in that field, that industry, you always. I work many hours outside working overtime, so you make all kind of money, great money. And the thing about it is, Michael, you don't have to have a 4-year degree. You get in there as a young person and go through the program. You have your benefits through the power company. Then, of course, I'm retired now, but it's a great job for young people who don't want to get these cushy jobs in the government, don't have to pay back your college loans, and make great money in the process.
Well, Bill, you bring up the point I was stressing earlier on the show, much earlier on the show, that Mike Rowe, who I know Chris knows him a little bit, I know him for decades now. Mike Rowe has been telling parents, your kids don't need to go to college. We got plenty of jobs for people in the trades, in the lineman gigs, electricians, plumbers, diesel mechanics, people that work with their hands. And these are jobs that don't require a 4-year degree, but pay in the six-figure range, almost from the beginning. Yeah. So it's a great point.
And the thing about it is, Mike, another great point is it's a job. It's a type of thing that everyone needs electricity. So also IBEW, I was in the union, Electrical Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. It was union,
yes, sir.
And you always need electricity. So there's something that's not going to go away. In fact, they're building a lot more of it because of the AI and everything. So in fact, it's even going to increase where they need more people in that field.
That's a great point, Bill.
The AI,
great point. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, that's an excellent point. These data centers that are being built to handle the AI stuff, they are massive. And one of the first groups that builds these, SoftBank, that came in, and the president brought him into the White House, and he said, I'm going to put $200 billion. He said $100 billion, and the president said, how about 200? And he negotiated that higher. Those are jobs that aren't going away. Those are jobs that will only advance. And so all these jobs are available to people. Nobody needs to be pushed into college. Not everybody should go to college. It should make sense. I mentioned Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. I just happen to think that this is kind of common sense, the old country common sense that we need. And there was a hearing yesterday, and Senator Kennedy was talking about the waste that we send out, the checks we send out to dead people. It's almost like the dead people voting in my old hometown of Chicago. This was a little bit of Senator Kennedy gold. Senator? And now he's double clutching on me. Here we go. Senator John Kennedy yesterday.
Quickly, do you think we ought to be sending government checks to dead people?
No, Senator. I think that's poor management.
During the pandemic, we sent out $1.4 billion of checks to dead people, didn't we?
I don't have the figure, Senator, but I wouldn't be surprised by that. Given everything
And they were
that I've seen.
cashed, weren't they?
They generally get cash whether they're dead or not.
What does that tell you?
Somebody's live.
Yep. Now, Senator Carper and I passed a bill. It took us 2 years. To try to stop that, when you die, the state sends your name to the Social Security Administration. Your name goes on what's called the Death Master File.
Yes, sir.
I went to Social Security and I said, can I see the list? They said, sure. I said, who do you share this with? They said, nobody. We can't. We don't have statutory authority. So you don't share it with the do not pay folks at Treasury? They said, nope. It's against the law.
It's an absolute abomination that we are sending $1.4 billion in checks to people who are dead, and those checks are getting cashed. And Senator Kennedy, and thank God it was a bipartisan bill with Tom Carper. This is a bipartisan. This is what we need. This is the kind of thinking we need. We need Republicans and Democrats to agree. Stupid stuff like this needs to stop today. Now, that bill that they passed, which would end the sending of checks to dead people, that bill is set to expire in 2026. And all Senator Kennedy's trying to do is get a new bill passed that will prevent it from happening once. Because trust me, the people who are cashing the dead people's checks, they're waiting for that bill to expire. That's a $1.4 billion gravy train that I guarantee you those people were cashing more than one check at the same time. The other topic that came up yesterday that I hope gets a whole lot more attention. Elon Musk made a statement. He was speaking virtually to the Morgan Stanley Technology Media Telecom Conference, saying that there are two entities that need to be privatized in this country. One of them is the Postal Service. It's kind of half privatized now, but it obviously needs to be made more efficient. Rand Paul has pointed this out a million times, how much less mail we have and how much more money we keep spending on the Postal Service. And maybe, just maybe, the Postal Service will handle the census going forward. But I think one of the most obvious issues is passenger rail. Amtrak needs to be privatized. When Amtrak celebrated its 40th year, I think this was about 7 years ago, Amtrak has 44 separate lines in the country. None of them make money. Amtrak is a giant money suck. But for the Democrats supporting it for all these years, it should have been privatized. Amtrak, as Elon Musk said, is a sad situation. If you're coming from another country, please don't use our national rail. It can leave you with a very bad impression of America. That is true. I guarantee you, commercial rail, which is very profitable, very private, if we opened up passenger rail, you would see major changes, not just in service, but cost. Elon Musk is right on this one. Hopefully that's going to change. Hopefully. All right, I'm stepping aside. When we come back, we'll try and put a button on the show, see if there's any other dangling opinions hanging out there on the phone lines. So hang on if you're there. I have to share a couple more thoughts with you. It might be a good idea for you to curse just for your health. I've got some scientific proof on this. You might not be cursing during Lent, but we'll talk about it. It's Michael Pelkin for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is The Chris Plant Show. Michael Pelka sitting in for my buddy, wrapping up today's program. I do want to try and get to one of these calls real quickly. George is in Elmwood Park, Illinois, on the great WLS. Hello, George. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show. What's on your mind?
Hey, how's it going? I was just listening to you for a couple minutes ago, and you said something about the tariffs are working, right, with Mexico and all that. But
yeah,
what exactly? Well, how do the tariffs exactly work? Like, how do they help?
They helped get the
was
Mexican. You asked the question. I'll answer it. Thank you for the question, George. The tariffs worked because Mexico came to the table and said, okay, we'll work with you. That's how it works. The tariffs work because Stellantis said, we'll start building more cars in America. The tariffs work because Honda said, we're going to build our new car in Indiana. The tariffs work because Canada is now coming and talking. Before they were just saying, no, we're going to be mad. That's how they worked. It's not that hard to figure out. It's pretty simple, in fact. Very simple. And it's good stuff. I mentioned swearing. It could be good for you. There's now scientific data that said swearing is linked with increased pain tolerance and maybe even strength. So when you're lifting something, it's okay to swear. Just can't do it on the radio or on television. Those are kind of important issues to remember. We try and remember them here on the Chris Plante Show. There was one other story I wanted to make sure I mentioned. Oh, yes. Let us all take a moment and worry and see what we can do to help Hunter Biden. According to the reporting in the Politico Playbook by Josh Gerstein, Hunter Biden is broke. Yes, he was pardoned from his father, which spared him from prison, but the former son of the president remains burdened with debt, forced out of a home he was renting in the Pacific Palisades. Yes, his grim financial situation was revealed in a court filing yesterday. He has struggled to sell his paintings. Can you imagine a world where nobody wants to buy Hunter Biden's paintings? What kind of a country do we live in? He's only sold one in the past 14 months compared to 27 in the prior 2 or 3 years. Significant debts, lackluster sales of his new memoir, just over 4,000 copies sold in 1 year. We might have to have a GoFundMe for Hunter Biden. There might have to be a Hunter Aid. I just can't believe that his buddies like Barack Obama, who has a production deal with Netflix, haven't given him a show already. Actually, this reality check makes me have more confidence in the system. Hunter Biden, welcome to reality. If there only were some kind of pharmaceutical to help you deal with this. No, I'm not saying an addict should go back to the drugs. I hope he doesn't. Stay sober. Get your life right. And remember, Hunter, testudo, my friends. Testudo.